when I rise, in the morning when I rise, give me Jesus. Give me Jesus. Give me Jesus. You can have all this world, but give me Jesus. And when I am alone, oh, and when I am alone, and when I am alone, give me Jesus. Give me Jesus. Give me Jesus. You can have all this world, but give me Jesus.
The food will be coming out in just a minute, and we are going to ask you in a minute to find a seat and a place where you can bring a plate full of food back and make yourself comfortable. Before we start that, we will just ask a blessing. If you would just bow your heads where you are. Heavenly Father, it is with heavy hearts that we gather together and before you to remember a very special man whom we loved and who has left a huge void in all of our lives. We seek your comfort and your peace that surpasses all understanding. We thank you for the gift of Paul's life and for the time we shared with him. He made each of us better people just being around him. He was a wonderful son, loving and devoted boyfriend, then husband, loving and adoring father, and proud grandfather, and of course friend to so many in this community and beyond. We cherish the memories of times we spent with him, his sense of humor, his laughter, and his love that touched our souls and made our lives brighter. How he greeted each of us with friendship and a calm and gentle smile. May your peace wash over his family, a gentle balm for their hurting souls. Surround them with your love and grant them the courage to heal. Help them to find comfort in the wonderful memories that they hold dear, and give them the strength to lean on each other and their wide circle of friends for support. Remind us of your unfailing love, a constant presence that carries us through even the darkest valleys. Though we grieve Paul's absence, we celebrate the time he was with us, and we hold on to the hope of your promises. We know that Paul rests now in your loving arms, that he is no longer in pain, and that he is forever cherished in your eternal kingdom. May the love he shared with us continue to inspire us as a guiding light on our path of life. May we carry his memory with us, a reminder of the preciousness of life and the enduring power of love, and his courage and determination, which he showed in his desire to continue to fight until he could fight no more. Grant each of us that courage and strength. At this time now, we ask a blessing upon the food which has been prepared. Pray that it may nourish and strengthen our bodies. that we might always be found serving you and in service to those around us. We pray. Amen. So we would like to invite you now then to, again, find a seat, find a place, and then the food is being brought out right now, and please help yourself. Okay. Okay. Everyone hear me? Okay.
Oh, you want my glasses?
No, it's just dark. I'm not blind. Okay, well, thank you all for coming. Obviously, Dad meant a lot to a lot of different people, so we appreciate you all for coming. You don't need lectures while I'm up here. So, thank you all for coming. Dad would be thrilled to see you all here having a good time. We did bring some scotch into the building, which was a favorite of Dad's. So if you guys feel like toasting Dad, grab yourself a scotch. Anyway, I am not going to say a lot of words. I've tried to write a speech for 3 days, and it just has not worked. So this morning I wrote down a few thoughts, and I will probably just read it. But anyway, growing up with my dad, he worked a lot. He did this for a few reasons. One, he did it to provide an incredible life for myself and my sisters and my mom. And two, he really just loved his job. He loved meeting people. He loved going into the office. He loved sitting at that desk, especially when he moved downstairs and people would come in and say hi to him, ask for advice, or just have a coffee with him. He loved those moments when anyone would do that. So some of you are in this room for sure that has stopped in, I'm sure. But he loved all these people. So he would talk to them in the street. He would talk to them at the arena. He seemed to know everyone. So he would be thrilled to see all of you here. I was privileged enough to work side by side with him and witness his generosity with his time and knowledge. He shared a lot of knowledge with me. We talked daily. We sat together daily for the last 4.5 years since I started real estate full time. So he also shared his knowledge with realtors, with new agents, with seasoned agents, whether it be from our company or others. He was always willing to talk and give advice to whoever was looking for it. So I'm forever grateful for that time that I was able to share with him. And I just hope I can carry on his legacy. They are very big shoes to fill, but I will do my best. My dad loved his grandkids, all of you, and spoke to all of you often. He was always so interested in what everyone had going on, wondered what you were doing, how you did. I can't see my phone now.
Yes, he was always excited to know what was going on in your lives, and he loved to brag about it to anyone who would listen. Right up until the very end, he was just so happy with what was going on, with hockey, with whatever was happening. The last time he was in the hospital, a couple times ago, Will's team had just won OFSA at Sacred Heart, so go hard. Whatever. But he was so thrilled with that. I was in his room, and doctors came in, and they brought his food to him. Nurses came in, and everyone that came in, he would talk about. Oh, my son or my grandson just went OFSA. He had this many points. He did this and this and this. And he was just so happy to talk about you guys. He really was beaming with pride whenever he spoke about you guys. And he was like that with all the kids. I know I had an example of Will, but he loved you all so much. And he loved being your papa more than anything. He loved you guys. My dad's life was cut too short, but he did live a great life. And although we will miss him, we're all very proud to have known him and to call him our dad. So, if you have a glass, I just want to raise a glass to my dad. We love you. Cheers. Okay. I'm going to call Keith and Dave. Friends of Dad's, they've been lifelong friends forever, so they know most things about him. Keith and Dave, where's Dave? There he is. Come on up.
Hello, I'm David Murray. I met Paul over 60 years ago. We've been great friends. I'm going to make this as light as possible. The very first day I met Paul was grade 9. He was in 9C and I was in 9B. And when I was talking to him, I didn't recognize him. I said, "Where are you from?" And he said, "Deemerton." And I said, "Deemerton?" God, he really gave me some dirty stares. And then for about 3 minutes, he told me all about Deemerton. And it ended up being that he's a Carrick boy, not a Miley boy. So I've heard that my whole life. So anyway, that was a lot of fun. And then in grade 10 or grade 11, there's a new girl came to town. Boy, she was cute. And Paul really, really was smitten by her. So anyway, myself and other people I don't recall spent a lot of time, and we arranged for a date meeting at the Everglades restaurant. Lo and behold, she showed up, and Paul was so nervous. Anyway, I guess you know who she was. Heather Cleveland. So anyway, and history is right behind it. 55 years or more, yeah. So anyway, those were two good events. And for the grandchildren, Paul was a great athlete. But the one thing Paul could not do was play basketball. Have you ever watched him with the basketball? He was dreadful. Unfortunately, he didn't have to play basketball. So, but it was a lot of fun watching him. we laughed, and he would just get furious with us. However, and just a few other things, we went on many, many trips with Heather and my wife. I won't say them all, but we had fun on every one of them. The first one was to Hawaii, and we went to a beautiful beach, but the local people where we stayed at told us that if you go over the hill, there's a nude beach. What do you think Paul wanted to do? We had to climb up over lava rocks and everything, and when we got there, what a disappointment. Anyway, we did travel a lot, we had a lot of parties, and gee whiz, there's 60 years of fun and enjoyment. Anyway, I thank him for everything. Now, here's the fun part.
I thought he did pretty good there. My name is Keith Ellis. Dave and Dale over there, myself. We've been friends for 60 years with Paul. We met Paul in high school, as Dave mentioned. And over the years, we've become really close friends. Paul, Dale, and myself, we played soccer together in the high school. And Paul also joined the school wrestling tournament. He was unbelievably strong. He used to shake my hand and make me cry. He won the Kawasa Championship in wrestling. And I remember he had to fight this guy from Timmins. And he was a big guy. He was bigger than Paul. And over the years, I've always embellished his story with Heather and Everett. But he won the Kawasa Championship, and I remember he had to fight this guy from Timmins. And he was just a massive guy. He seemed that way to me anyway at the time. But not only, I always equated the fight that he made, and he won the Kawasa Championship, to Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant. I'm sure this guy was maybe 180 pounds, but by the time I was done with the story, he was 400. Anyway, for those that don't know, Hulk Hogan picked up this 400, Andre the Giant slammed into the mat. And I remember Paul picking up this guy from Timmins, and he slammed into the mat. Yep. Not only was Paul physically strong, but he was mentally strong. 45 years ago, Paul started in the real estate business. The first year, Paul did not make a dime. And Heather had to support him. And she did. She always supported Paul through his life. They were in their 55th year of marriage when Paul passed. Little did Paul know the first year of real estate, when Heather financially supported him, that he would pay the price for the next 43 years. As Heather always said, Paul makes the money, I spend it. To be serious, Paul loved Heather and her family and their grandkids. He worked 6 days a week, like Matt said, and lots of times he worked 7 days a week. He made his family, he wanted to make life for his family as easy as possible. And he was very successful at it. He was awarded the best sales of the year many times at McIntyre Real Estate. And he remained faithful to his employer for 45 years and truly enjoyed working there. Paul and Heather later on purchased a cottage in King Cart a number of years ago. It was not in great shape when they bought it, but over the years they turned it into a beautiful cottage. As Paul and Heather's friends, we received the benefit of that. We had many enjoyable days staying at the cottage. Paul always had new ideas how to improve the cottage appearance. Paul, Dave, and I were involved in making these ideas come true, which I enjoyed. I'm not sure about Dave. He was a banker all his life. Didn't do a lot of physical labor. But he certainly was good at his job. Very successful at it. Paul always tried to make Heather happy. He was willing to do anything to make her happy. So on Paul's 40th birthday party that we had at the house, Paul learned how to do dirty dancing. We thought, wow. But anyway, they danced in front of us, and I tell you, we were pretty impressed with it. As I mentioned before, Paul was our friend for 60 years. And we love Heather and Paul very much. It's now our time to step up to the plate, support Heather through the next number of years, as Paul would expect us to do as his friend. We'll miss Paul greatly, but we are happy that he's through being sick. He will be with his parents, his brother Joe, his sisters Shirley and Sheila, and he will be healthy and well again. So Paul, until we meet again.
This time we're going to call up Ken and Bill. His brothers, Ken and Bill, are they around here somewhere? There he is. Come on up, please. Oh, while they're coming up here, I just noticed we did make this happen, but over the last little while, and maybe longer, Dad really loved ice cream. It was kind of his meal that he had all the time, so by the looks of it, they did manage to get ice cream. So if you guys want some ice cream, there is ice cream back there.
Is it on? Obviously, I'm Bill and this is Ken. Another brother, Ken, yeah. Anyway, I was honored when Heather asked if we'd say a few words about our brother Paul. For those that don't know, and I imagine most do it here, Paul was the second youngest of 8, 4 girls and 4 boys. As they just said before, 3 of them have passed. One of our brothers, Joe, passed, and Sheila and Shirley have passed. And Mary Lou couldn't be here today because her husband's not doing that well. Anyway, myself, I was the youngest, so I grew up with really close with Paul on the farm. We had lots of fun together and lots of arguments together and lots of. He actually would wrestle me to improve his wrestling. Anyway, well, I remember Paul teaching me how to drive. He did a pretty good job of that. However, I did fail my driving test. Another time, Paul had Dad's '66 Belvedere. I remember we left the school, and on the way up at the corner of the high school there, he picked up a hitchhiker from high school, and somebody smashed into the back left corner of the car. And about 2 weeks after it was fixed, I backed into that same fender with the truck and farm. Needless to say, that didn't go over very well at home. So Paul was a great teacher. Dave Murray, I believe, was on this trip with Paul and Heather. We switched cars a couple of times on trips. On one occasion, Paul borrowed my '66 Chevelle convertible to go east. What was Dale Nan? My apologies. I didn't remember who it was. They left me I believe it was the Beagle. I actually got a ticket with that car. We're going through a red light. But anyway, see. But yeah, so it appears that, and I know they took it east, but I see that Heather still likes VWs. I wonder why, but we're not going to go there. And then there was a time, and this was really an interesting trip. I think Keith was along when Paul looked for his first Beamer.
Yep.
Yeah. We were along when Paul went down to get his first Beamer, or he looked at it. I don't know if he got it that day.
No, the price tag goes back.
Yeah, but he was like a kid in a candy store. It was just awesome. He was just proud that he was going to be able to buy that, and of course he did. But and one thing I can't leave out. A few years back, and it's been a while, but we did some trips up north, courtesy of Bob Scott at the hunt camp. And the one that really sticks out is the shave off we had. It's Bob, isn't it? Bob's there. Yeah, Joel, myself, and Ken, we had our mustaches on for like 40 years. And, well, I shouldn't admit it. But anyway, they tried to convince us to take them off. And it was to raise money for the new camp that they eventually did build. Anyway, they talked us into it, and there was lots of fun. But Paul was doing the shaving, and I told Paul, "Well, you can't just shave the mustache off. You got to give me a really good shave." But we had a lot of laughs that day. I think everybody had a great time. So I'll never forget that weekend. As far as Paul was always available if we needed him. He was always there if you needed help or advice. It didn't matter what it was, he'd give you advice, good or bad. And he was often called upon by me. We always had good times when getting together, whether it was for a holiday or a birthday or a reunion. We haven't had one of those in a while, mind, or just a good visit. Over the last couple of years, Paul and I spent more time with each other. I took him to some of his appointments and visited a lot more with him and his family. And they are times I will always cherish. Brother Paul, we will miss you. I will always love you.
Anyhow, Bill, you forgot to tell him that when we had that shave off, remember you coming to me and I said, well, we're not going to do that. He said, they'll never raise $1,000. And by Job, they did, so off gave him the mustaches. Then a little later on, Bill and I went back into the washroom and I cut some hair off the back of my head. And Bill got duct tape and he put two-way duct tape and put hair back on all the way there. They couldn't figure that one out. But anyhow, I'm very proud to call Paul my brother, and we love him very much. And Bill said that Paul was a good driver. Well, I don't know if he was, because when one Sunday morning we were getting ready for church, and Paul and my sister went out and sat in Dad's car, and we were still getting ready, and lo and behold, Mary Lou come running in and said, Paul drove the car over the wall. There was a wall there, and he hanging over the cliff. Well, not too many of us got to church that Sunday. And Dad wasn't happy. I think it was a 53 Ford at the time, or 54 anyhow. Anyhow, one thing I have to give Paul a lot of credit for, he kind of put our names on the map, because whenever I talk to people,
And then, you know, you'd say, well, they'd say, do you know Paul? And I'd say, oh yeah, that's my brother. So I'm proud of that. And, you know, a lot of times in his real estate, he'd come out to the farm and he'd come in and we'd have good talks, good visits, and we'd talk about the farm and different stuff. And I better watch out or I'll get emotional here. But he sure was a good brother, and that's really good. And the number, there's another thing that we used to tease him about whenever we were with friends, you know, after Paul started losing his hair. They'd say, well, who's the oldest? And I'd say, he is. He'd say, like Helly, I'm the oldest. But yeah, and you know, there's another thing he always mentioned. I said, Paul, how did you ever get to like Scotch? I said, we never drank Scotch ever at home. Well, he said, the guy I roomed with when he was in college, he said, I had no money and I had no booze, and he had Scotch and it was free. He said, I learned that. So anyhow, yeah, and I'll end it, yeah, so, yeah. 2 years ago, we got to travel to Portugal. Heather phoned and said, do you guys want to go along to Portugal? So I said, yeah, we'll go, and I'm so glad we did. We had a lot of fun, drank a lot of wine, and we'd do a lot of touring with the tour guide, and we'd get back to the hotel, and Paul would say, there was always a lot of churches, you know, that we went on tour, and Paul says, I'm churched out. Today I'm churched out, we're not going tomorrow. But anyhow, that's about all I got to say. I'm so glad that Paul was my brother, and he was always there for us, and he was a kind of an anchor to us, and Paul, we'll never forget you, we'll always love you, and always be in our hearts. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. We're going to call up Charlie Cleland. Say a few words.
Well, thanks for the introduction there, Matt and Kenny and Bill. I was at that day when they shaved the mustaches off, and honestly, it didn't take very long to raise $1,000 for that building. But as I understand it, they might correct me, is they had these mustaches on for 40 years, and when they got home, none of their wives even knew that it was there.
6 months to grow it back.
6 months to grow it back. Well, yeah, I'm Charles. I'm Heather's brother. And my very first recollection of Paul, now this is entirely different because I was a kid. I was 13, I think, at the time. And we were living in Walkerton on Prince Street. We had a small little bungalow, or I guess a story and a half building that had a large driveway. And when Paul and Heather started dating, they would come home later at night and go into the driveway, and it seemed like for me, I was watching for them. I wanted to find out what they were doing. But it took forever to get them out of the car. I waited and waited and waited. And suddenly, and this became, I figured this one out, when the porch light came on, Heather and Paul got out of the car. Now that was Mom, and she must have been timing something, I don't know. But as soon as I figured out that turning the light on would get them out of the car, I just beat Mom to the light. But we knew it was getting serious when Heather got us, the siblings, in a room. Maybe not Wendy, she was probably not there, but she said, you're going to have to learn how to spell Kueneman. Now, I don't know why she wanted us to do all that, but probably it had something to do with putting birthday cards together, Heather, or something. But the way she, you know, Heather, as her way, provided some melody to spelling Kueneman so we wouldn't forget. So it was Kueneman. So we'd had no trouble. We had a couple of songs that worked out good. So time goes along, and this is kind of where the friendship started to come in. Paul and Heather settled in Walkerton, of course, and then Trudy and I also settled in Walkerton. And Paul got me playing hockey on the hockey team in the rec league. He got me on the ball team playing ball. We played golf together. We even fished up in Noganosh together. And we traveled together a number of times. And if you know Paul, he loved to travel for 5 or 6 days before he wanted to come home. And but he also loved adventures. And when I turned 60, our son Dan was working in the Amazon in Peru, and he talked to me and Paul about, we were down at Walker's Landing. He said, why don't you guys come down to Peru, to this place, and drink some ayahuasca? And I don't know if you, probably many of you don't know what ayahuasca is. It's kind of like a tea that they make from the roots of certain plants. And it's a hallucinogenic. And, but Paul said, sure, let's go. But Dan, of course, was down there already, and Paul and I had to travel by ourselves. We had to travel to Peru, then we went to Colombia, then we went to Brazil, and finally back into the Amazon jungle where Dan was. But we had no knowledge of Spanish. In fact, we didn't know anything about Spanish. And I remember Paul and I got up one morning. There was a little beat-up kind of restaurant, and we went in there and tried to order up some eggs. And the guy behind the counter just looked at us, and so we started pointing at certain things, and he kept saying, I think the Spanish word is huevos fritos, which is fried eggs, and that's what he kept saying, huevos fritos. And Paul goes, no, eggs. So, that was a new one on me. I didn't know sign language. The guy in the counter didn't either. And we did, this is a quick one too, but we hung out a lot with Paul and Heather at parties and so on, and one time, Sambuca seemed to be a big deal. You remember that, you don't remember ayahuasca, do you? But yeah, so Paul and Heather were having Rita and Harold up for supper one night, and they said, why don't you come up? So Trudy and I did, and we brought a bottle of Sambuca. So did Harold and Rita. And so did Paul and Heather. So we had quite a night, and if you know that, it goes down really smooth, that stuff. But I know the next day, Paul had to show a farm. And when I talked to him the next day, I said, how'd it go? He said, wasn't that bad, but when I got to the farm, I had one tennis shoe on and one normal shoe. So, yeah, so, as I said earlier, so we played golf a lot. Well, Paul didn't play a lot, but when he did play, it was fun. But every year, in 2006, after we lost one of our Senators' teammates to a tragic accident, we decided to go south, play golf in the warm weather once a year, the first week in May. And we did that for a number of years, 10, 12 years. But the reason I'm saying this is Paul's birthday always falls on that first week in May. And we would be having a restaurant, Dave Murray was there too, having a restaurant. We got 16 guys sitting around, and on the 6th of May, somebody in the group undoubtedly would stand up and start singing Happy Birthday. I don't know who it was, Kenny Coleman. And then, so all of us, 16 guys in the restaurant, standing up and singing Happy Birthday to Paul, who just turned inside out and didn't want to have anything to do with it. but it was always fun and we always did that. With respect to business, I mean, Paul was really an advisor to me, and in many ways, we did lots of things, and we started a solar company one time, and it still exists actually. And also, we got together and invested with some other guys to property in Costa Rica, which we still have too. So he was not just a guy that mentors. He actually was an execution guy too, because he was pushing hard for these businesses to succeed. And so I will always treasure that. In the final bit of this, Paul and I were close. He was my business partner. He was my support person for many, many things. I always looked to him for advice, for guidance, and I think today he's right here, still providing that for me. And as far back as I can remember, he always was there for me. And I guess somewhere along the way, I dropped the in-law off of brother because he was a brother to me. So, Paul, you're here. I feel you. And rest in peace. Cheers to Paul Kueneman.
Okay, at this time we're going to call up some of the grandkids to say a few words.
So I'm Matt's son, Will. We're Papa's grandkids, so we're just gonna. I don't know, this is going to be hard, but, so, Papa truly was the heart of our family. He embodied unconditional love and unwavering support. Our Papa was a great role model for us. He's very wise and an individual that emphasized the importance of family and giving back to the community. We all admired him deeply. Our Papa worked very hard to provide for our family. In fact, he was still working whenever he could, deep into his fight against cancer. Despite his hard work ethic, he always made time for us.
He was our biggest fan at sporting events and would give us full support in whatever we chose to do. I like to think that his motivation to continue fighting for as long as he did was being able to go watch Hallie, Will, Jack, and Mason's hockey games, along with being able to spend Thanksgiving, Christmas, and our Nana's birthday surrounded by his children and grandchildren. Our Papa is the strongest person I know. We will forever cherish the memories we made and try to live our lives emulating the life lessons he taught us. He will truly be missed by all of us.
Giving back to the community, the reward of hard work, and sharing love and loyalty with family. These are some of the values that Paul Kueneman, our grandfather, taught us. Good afternoon, my name's Hudson Wyman. I'm one of the lucky ones to call Paul Kueneman my grandfather. If you don't recognize me, that's because I live 900 miles away. However, despite that distance, our papa had a monumental impact on me and my brother Ethan's lives, as well as the rest of his grandchildren. Papa taught us what it meant to be great men and women. He taught us the importance of giving and being an active part of our community. He showed us the rewards that come from an honest day's work. I think I can safely say that Paul Kueneman is the hardest working and most dedicated person I know in the world. I'm immensely grateful to have grown up learning from someone with that kind of drive, someone who worked not only for himself, but for others and the people that he loved. Most importantly, our Papa taught us that the most important thing is our family, and it's what matters most. I often brag to my friends back home about the huge family I have up north. And after the Four Nations, I made sure to let everyone know I was 75% Canadian. We love our Papa, and our lives would not be the same without him. While he'll always be missed, the values and lessons that he taught his grandchildren will be passed on to our kids and hopefully their grandchildren as well. Thank you.
And the last people are my sisters, Krista and Summer. Or sorry, Krista, then Summer.
It's hard to go after that. Everyone says I need to wear my glasses because I squint all the time. Well, thankfully, Dad had readers everywhere, and I picked up a pair of them. So I'm Krista, and I know some of you just found out who I was this week, but yes, I am Paul Kueneman's other daughter. I'm actually the oldest. I did move away after university, but my roots run deep here in Bruce County, and this is where my heart will always be. You know, growing up in a small town is so special. It didn't matter where we went. Somebody would always recognize me or hear my name and say, "Oh yes, you're Paul Kueneman's daughter," or "You're Cooney's kid." You know, and there was always followed with a smile, a kind word, some admiration about my dad, or a funny story. It made me very proud. Not just because of the name that I carried, but because of the man, my dad, who gave it meaning. And we never got anywhere fast, right? Everywhere we went, there would be somebody to talk to. Dad would stop to talk to somebody, a friend, a neighbor, somebody he was working with. You'd think he was the town mayor, really. But that's just who he was. People loved to talk to him, and he always made time to talk to others. He had a special way of making everyone feel important because they were to him. Many have told me over my life that I look like my dad. But my dad gave me so much more than his resemblance. He gave me strength and perseverance. He taught me the value of hard work, the power of kindness, and the importance of living with integrity. To me and my brother and sister, and all the grandkids, he showed us what it means to be a devoted husband and a truly loving dad and grandfather, present, dependable, and always putting mom and family first. My dad was someone who always took care of things, right? Whether it was big or small, if something needed to be done, he would make sure it happened. You know, I did live far away. And whenever Dad came to visit me, I'd always have a mental list ready around the house of all the things that needed fixing or checking. He'd go through it, crossing everything off my task, not just because he had to, but because that's just who he was. He found joy in helping, in making life easier for others, and that was Dad. And I'm sure the in-laws can attest to me or my sister saying frequently, that's not how my dad would do it. His actions spoke volumes. He taught us to be generous, strong in our values, and gentle with our hearts. He showed me that forgiveness should be given freely, just as he gave it to others. He encouraged us to let go of grudges, to move forward in grace, and to always keep looking ahead, even in the hardest times. He was our steady hand in a storm and our quiet strength. I love my dad. When I think of his life, I'm reminded of a poem called The Dash by Linda Ellis, which speaks to the meaning of time between our birth and passing. The dash. My dad filled his dash with family, love, service, honest work, and lots of laughter. He lived it with purpose. He had a great dash. If you could all raise a glass to my dad, to let him be the inspiration, to live our own dashes with the same heart and strength that he showed us every day. Dad, I thank you for every moment. We will miss you and carry you with us always. To Dad.
Why did I have to go last?
It's only you, Summer.
It's terrible. I'm the one who always tells her she squints all the time. I get some glasses, girl. I'm Summer. I'm not going to hold the microphone because I'm pretty shaky all the time, not just today. I feel like I've done this speech in my head over and over because we did know it was coming. But it just seemed impossible to put it into words. I just don't know how to summarize it into a few minutes, the influence on my life and what he means to me. It's just an impossible task, but I do feel it's important that I try. My husband keeps telling me to breathe today. When you are a young child, a young adult, you don't really understand how much your life has benefited by having a gentle and good man as your father, because you don't know any different. You assume that all fathers are similar, that all families have some general universal truths, that all kids have loving and mature adults who look after them. For me, that was a natural assumption because I had so many examples of wonderful men and fathers around me. It wasn't until I started my career in child welfare that I began to fully understand my good fortune, where I realized how different life looks for many children. And it's impossible to quantify what it means to a child when they live in a home where you have always been safe, where your whole being can be at rest, because you trust that you're always cared for and protected, no matter what. And I grew up in a house like that, with a calm and steady leader who we always depended on. Today my heart hurts, but I am so grateful for the man who shaped our lives. There's so many things to be thankful for. First of all, my father is fully responsible for my name. He and my mom had decided on something a bit more traditional. But my dad went out with Harold Cunningham following the arrival to a bar. So the men were different those days. The day after the birth. And shared with him that he really wanted to name me Summer Elizabeth. And I think Harold kind of teased him a little bit and convinced him to kind of talk to his wife. And he went to the hospital the next day and said, I really want to name her Summer Elizabeth. Thinking that there'd be some resistance, but Mom actually said, sure. And he's been greeting me with, hello, Summer Elizabeth. How's my girl? Ever since. And I'm going to miss that greeting. It was always delivered with so much warmth, so much love. Krista was Krista Kay, and I was Summer Elizabeth. We grew up in a house where we always felt safe and protected, always knowing there was a safety net to catch you if you ever needed it. And I don't think you ever realize how much you rely on a safety net to be able to go out and explore the world. When you know someone is always there to catch you, it gives you so much confidence to try new things. I always knew, no matter what, I could depend on my dad. He would help me if I needed it, and he would help me if I didn't know what to do. When I was younger, that net was a bit closer, and I relied on it a lot more, but it's always been there. It was one of the reasons I had a hard time leaving home after I got married. A few days after the wedding, some of you know this story, Aaron and I were getting ready to go away on our honeymoon, and it hit me that I was leaving home. Like, really leaving home. And I don't know why, but I hadn't considered it. But at that moment, the weight of it felt so scary. Like, what would I do without my dad? It was a giant threshold for me, stepping into the adult world without him. And I remember crying in his lap and asking him if we could live in the basement. Mom came back into the room, and we were both crying. Like, really, can you imagine? Poor Aaron. He was like, what have I done? But it was scary, the thought of not having that net, that force field of love and safety so close. I got over it. By the time we got to the airport, I realized I was ridiculous. And I was actually just moving across town. I thought my reaction was a bit nuts until my Aunt Rosemary told me she had a similar emotional response to leaving home. Which makes sense because she had one of the best fathers in Hugh Cleland. We ended up living with Mom and Dad 3 times in our married life. So we just kept coming back. The net really never went away. It was always there. It just expanded to include our family and our kids. I grew up in a home where there was just so much love between my parents. They had such a healthy partnership. They provided us with such a beautiful example of marriage. One of respect and mutual admiration. I hardly remember a harsh tone between them. I'm sure you argued, but never when we were around. How lucky were we to grow up in that kind of house? One where the adults communicated in healthy ways and had fun together and showed affection. I don't remember my father upset with me very often. He pretty much felt the sun shone directly on my face. In fact, I can only recall one time in my life that he raised his voice with me. And that was when I was being a bratty teenager, and I talked back to Mom at the table. And he looked me in the eye and he said firmly, "That is not how you will speak to your mother." And I got the message. Usually, however, if Dad wanted to emphasize a point or diffuse a situation, he would just lighten the mood with a humorous comment, and everyone would settle. My mom told me the most important decision you will ever make in your life is who you marry. And her decision to marry Paul Kueneman was definitely an example of that. Dad was diagnosed in leukemia in September, and life changed pretty quickly. It felt overwhelming, and we were going to lose him. And we were all devastated by the prognosis. But we committed to digging in and doing all we could to care for Dad and extend his life as long as we could. And we did. And I am so proud of how our family came together, but no one more than my mom. The way Mom cared for Dad was beautiful to witness. And nothing exemplified that more than our month in London. When we left the house on December 30th, we didn't know if Dad would come home. The first few weeks there were difficult. He was so ill. And although the nursing staff were wonderful, Dad needed one of us there. And Mom refused to leave him. She took the night shift every night, sleeping in an elliptical chair that we brought from Uncle Andrew's to the room. She learned how to give chemo injections and keep track of meds and ensured he was eating. She showered, making sure he was cleaned up and walking. I remember him saying, like, "Heather, we'll do it tomorrow. I promise, tomorrow I'll get up." She really just kept him going, and he never complained, so we made it so easy for us. But Mom showed us all how to truly love your spouse in sickness and in health. And Dad rebounded, and we brought him home, something we weren't sure would happen when we left that house on December 30th. Our time in London was eased by the support and love that Uncle Andrew and Aunt Diana offered us. We invaded their home and space for almost a month. And I don't know how we would have done it without you. I don't know where you are, but we will always be so grateful. You really eased our heartache. Like my sister said, my dad was not a person that lived in the past. He always looked forward. It was the reason people loved him. He lived in the now, accepting what came, and guided us calmly through every storm. He was much like Grandma Kay that way. Grandma Kueneman. I must all shorten that name. K-U-E. Yeah. We will do the same as we face this new threshold for all of us. A life without him, it's hard to think about. And it's difficult to think about legacy. I'm not even sure what that means. One wisdom tradition that helps me to think about legacy is the Anishinaabe teaching that your decisions and actions can impact the next 7 generations of ancestors who come after you. It is a daunting idea, and one that forces you to think less about you as an individual and more about the collective good of your children and your future ancestors. It reminds me that we have to be serious about the impact we can have on those who come after us. How we treat our spouse matters. How we treat our children matters, and how we care for our neighbors matters. It warms my heart to think that my great-grandchildren and their children, all of whom I will never meet, will still be impacted in a positive way because of the goodness of my father and the way he lived his life and cared for his family. As we were pulling out of the driveway en route to London on December 30th, many of the grandkids were at the door watching us leave. And Dad looked to me and said, "That is the future right there, Summer. Those grandkids are it, and they are all amazing." You were amazing, Dad. Thank you so much. Keep protecting us wherever you are. Thank you very much. Thank you all for coming. It means a lot.
I just wanted to thank everyone, especially all the people who cared for Paul, the hospital, the nurses, the doctors, the support staff, the lab, everybody was so kind and so helpful. And if you think our healthcare is in trouble, I tell you, we're so grateful to Walkerton Hospital, to Owen Sound Hospital, to London. They looked after Paul so well. And all those people that donated blood, you gave them life for so many months. So if you have it in your heart to share your blood, you will save somebody's life. So thank you so much for coming. Now go have a drink, have a spot. That's it, we talked a lot.
How do I say goodbye to what we had? The good time that made us laugh, I'll wait them back. I thought we could forever's gone now. It's so hard to say goodbye to yesterday. I don't know where this road is going to be. All I know is where we've been and what we've been. If we get to see tomorrow, I hope it's worth all the wait. It's so hard to say goodbye to yesterday. And I'll take with me the memories to be my sunshine after the rain. It's so hard to say goodbye to yesterday. And I'll take with me the memory to be my sunshine after the rain. How do I say goodbye to what we had? The good time that made us laugh, I'll wait them back. I thought we get to see forever, but forever's gone now. It's so hard to say goodbye to yesterday. I don't know where this road is going to lead. All I know is where we've been and I'll take with me the memories to be my sunshine after the rain. It's so hard to say goodbye to yesterday.